Welcome to Encounter Wargaming. I'm Jay, and this is Retconned and Redacted. Welcome to another episode of our lore series that explores all of the aspects of 40k that have been either drastically changed over time or just removed from the fluff completely. Today, we'll be covering a lesser-known 40k race that may or may not be the oldest in the galaxy. We're talking about the Slanni. If you're watching this series for the first time, you picked a good one to start with. We've done a couple more lesser-known races already, so make sure to check out the playlist from the beginning after you watch this video. If you've been listening along all along, welcome back. Glad to have you. I just want to take a moment to thank our patrons on Patreon. You people are saints among men, and we're eternally grateful for your contributions to Encounter Wargaming. With your help, we're able to improve our content and keep the lights on, so to speak. If you'd like to join our Patreon campaign and become one of these amazing viewers, then click on the link in the description below. You won't regret it. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into today's topic. This amphibious race has been a hot topic amongst 40k theorists for some time now. They are one of the many connections between Warhammer Fantasy and 40k. In fact, they still exist in Age of Sigmar as the Slann Star Masters. So let's start with what the original 40k lore said about these lovely frog people, and then move into how that has changed over time. If we have time, we'll talk a little bit about their connection with Warhammer and what that means for 40k. So without further ado, as previously stated, the Slanni are an amphibious race that may possibly be the oldest sentient race in the galaxy that still remains to the 41st millennium. They evolved into a spacefaring race millions of Terran years ago. In fact, they had a galaxy-spanning empire at one point in history. They are frog-like in appearance with cool, moist skin. They have long and webbed hands and feet. They also possess large eyes that protrude from the tops of their heads, quite similar to the frogs and toads of old Earth. They stand roughly 2 meters in height. That's over 6 feet for the Americans listening. And their females are usually quite larger and bulkier than the males. They come in a variety of colors. Green and blue are most common, but also yellow. White albino and melanistic colors have also been documented. They can also be striped and spotted, with these markings being common throughout an entire tribe, representing tribal divisions. It is said that they engineered and nurtured many species throughout the galaxy. This has led to much debate as to whether the Slanni are a creation of the Old Ones, or are in fact the Old Ones themselves. This is mostly due to the fact that the Slann mage priests of the Old World were described as descendants of the Old Ones. I believe that if we are to accept the Slanni into the current 40k paradigm, we have to see them as one of the Old Ones' many creations, rather than the Old Ones themselves. I'll proceed to explain why. First, they had a galaxy-spanning empire. There was no mention of a great adversary or conflict. They were able to colonize and terraform worlds with little resistance. This would likely mean that the Necrons and the Catan were already asleep, since they were the primary enemy of the Old Ones. The Slanni seem to fill a similar role to the Old Ones. This does not make them the Old Ones, however. After the Old Ones fled the galaxy, they left their many creations in control, or perhaps it's better to say that they inherited the galaxy from their creators. All this says to me is that the Slanni continued in their creators' footsteps. Now that the Old Ones were not around to seed worlds with promising life forms, it became the responsibility of the Slanni, especially since we know they were the advisors to the Eldari. The Slanni are an incredibly psychic race, in a similar manner to the Eldari. They were quite aware of the warp and used their psychic abilities to perform great miracles. They were also aware of some gestating malicious warp entities, which they named the Powers of Chaos. The Slanni taught the Eldari how to best make use of their psychic abilities. They also taught them about the many dangers of the warp and how to make use of the Old One's webway technology. This would later allow the Eldari to expand the webway rather than just use it. They also warned the Eldari of the ruinous powers. They even prophesied the fall of the Eldari. Some believe this was the warning that the Craftworlders would eventually heed, having witnessed the Slanni's prophecy come true before their eyes, as the Eldari fell deeper into depravity. In my eyes, all this further cements the Slanni as an older sibling of sorts to the Eldari. When the Old Ones left the galaxy, the Eldari were in their infancy. The Slanni were mature enough to take the reins until the Eldari were ready to claim dominance over the galaxy. As previously mentioned, it would appear the Slanni had no great enemy. This would mean that they did not lose their dominance of the galaxy to an enemy invasion or a tiresome conflict like the Old Ones did. It would appear that they instead retired from galactic affairs. Why they did this is open to speculation. Some say they simply evolved to a point where they did not seek territory or material gains. They may have discovered some great spiritual truth or mystic insight, since they are unequaled in psychic philosophy and mystic technology. Whatever their motivations, it would appear that they inherited the galaxy from the Old Ones. They then nurtured the Eldari into maturity. Then they retired, mostly to the galactic north, in order to live simpler lives, free from the need for power or conquest. The current Slanni live quite primitive lives in comparison to other sentient spacefaring races. Their worlds are mostly closed off to outsiders, and all remain in proximity to one another. There are isolated Slanni worlds throughout the galaxy, even within Imperial space, but for the most part they reside in the galactic north, attempting to stay isolated from other races. Their society appears to be homogeneous from world to world, with most Slanni planets having very similar cultures, languages, and technology. Their society is reminiscent of the Mesoamerican cultures of ancient Terra. This fact, amongst others, hints that they have visited Terra in ancient past, and may have had a hand in the development of humans, as well as possibly even the Jokairo. It would appear that in Rogue Trader, the Slann and the Old Ones were intended to be the same race, since they were referred to as the Old Slann in those days. In fact, the Old Ones inherited much of the Slann's lore, as they removed them from the setting in later editions. They were left out of 40k lore until this peripheral image that appeared in the 4th edition rulebook. That would be the last we heard of the Slann in 40k. The Slann Mage Priests would continue to exist in Warhammer Fantasy, since they were the ruling class of the Lizardmen, later to be known as the Seraphon in Age of Sigmar. All other reference to the enigmatic race in the 40k lore would refer to them as the Old Ones, rather than the Old Slann or the Slanni. This means that there is basically two ways we can approach this. As I've stated before in past videos in this series, there is not really such a thing as retcon in 40k. It's simply a matter of what we wish to consider true. Facts are distorted and scrambled in the distant future. This means that we now basically have two scenarios to accept. 1. The Slanni and the Old Ones are one and the same. This means that the reason they no longer exist in 40k is because of the war in heaven, where the Necrons and the Catan drove them out of the galaxy, or perhaps even made them extinct. For whatever reason, they left the galaxy after that conflict, never to return again. Perhaps they journeyed through the warp to the old world to set up shop there. Either way, in either this scenario or the next scenario I'm about to mention, we'll never know what truly happened to the old ones. Scenario 2 is that the Slanni inherited the galaxy from the old ones after they left, and were left with the task of preparing the other races, like the Eldari and humanity, to take over for them, so that they could retire to primitive worlds and live simple, more spiritual lives. This would mean that they still inhabit the galactic north and seldomly trade with other races from time to time. This is the only way, in my humble opinion, that the picture in the 4th edition rulebook makes any sense. Otherwise, they would have been wiped out or chased out of the galaxy after the War in Heaven. Now, it's worth considering that we are talking about really old 40k lore here. So it's best to understand that when the old Slan Fluff was written, they had not yet fleshed out the Necron backstory, since they did not receive their own codex until 40k 3.5 edition. Therefore, what we know about the War in Heaven wasn't actually a thing when the Slan Fluff was written. Since the Slan were basically redacted, for lack of a better word, they did not have to consider adapting the fluff to compensate for the newly introduced Necron lore. So that's basically where we're going to leave it for today. I hope you've all enjoyed this video and are enjoying this series so far. I'm having a lot of fun researching this stuff myself. It's giving me a lot of nostalgia, and I won't lie, I've received a few aha moments along the way. And this is only the 3rd video in the series. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Can we still consider the Slanni a 40k race? Are they the descendants of the old ones? Are they the old ones themselves? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, please hit the like button below and make sure to hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed. In addition to that, we also have a Patreon campaign linked in the description below, so make sure to check that out before you venture off into another video. If becoming a regular patron isn't your thing, you can also help support us by buying a t-shirt off of our Spreadshirt page, also linked in the description below. That's all from me for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at our next encounter.
Like a monkey in a rocket on his way back home. Okay.